All right, and we are live once again. Another weekend, another Saturday. All right, nice. Hi everyone. Welcome. My name is Ronnie. This is my project, Ellipsis. If you don't know it, I'll tell you just in a few words about it. But before I do that, I'm just gonna quickly make an apology if you're hearing these noises in the background, if the background is a little busy. I'm here in an apartment in Geneva, Switzerland, and it's very, very hot. It's getting very, very hot in these days. It's actually, I think, I don't remember what it is today. It should be like 32, 33 degrees. That's in Celsius. So if you're an American, that's about, I guess, in the 90s, kind of, Fahrenheit. So it is hot, and the Europeans have not heard about air conditioning. So that's why I have my fan here, and that's why it's a little bit noisy. I also have the window open, so you might hear some noises from the street. But I hope I hope you can hear me well. I hope it's all good. Today I set up my microphones in a way that I wanted to do before, which I think is better because there was a stream I think it was maybe a week or two ago where you could only hear me on on just one ear because the microphone was set up in a particular way. Anyway, I think I solved it. I did some tests just now, just before going on air, and I think it's working better. So once again, thank you for your patience. My apologies if you're hearing the fan, but hopefully you can hear me clear enough. And other than that, welcome here. As I said, I am now in Geneva, Switzerland, but I am at this juncture traveling from place to place as it is, and this is because my project and this channel, Ellipsis, is about combining my love to travel and music and meeting people and collaborating with people. Um, I am a musician and a writer and a performance artist, so this is what I do, this is what I love to do, and I've always loved travel. I think the more you travel, the more new experiences you gain about the world and about different cultures and different peoples around the world, the easier it is to, well, you become a lot smarter about a lot of things. I think you gain a lot of very important life lessons along the way. Not that you cannot learn them just by staying in one place, where you were born and grow up, but a lot of times I find the lessons come quicker when you travel and you kind of force yourself to be in different situations all the time. At least that's my way. Of course, you don't have to agree with that. But that's also kind of it's a part of this agenda that I'm promoting. I would say even a political agenda, to some extent, which is that I think that all of us in this day and age, we need to be world citizens, at least in spirit. I'm not telling anyone and everyone to go and do this kind of lifestyle that I do, where I travel all the time and I go from place to place. But I think we all need to be world citizens in spirit, because I think obviously human beings, we all have our differences, but in a lot of ways we're also the same. And on a very practical level, it seems like if we can, prevent and this is not super controversial, right? What I'm about to say, we'll probably agree. If we can just prevent like a lot of the bad things that happen in the world today, and when I say bad, I mean just like people dying for no reason, people killing for no reason, people making other people suffer to get something that they think that they deserve because of some kind of a history that they had or their parents had or their grandparents had. We're going to talk a little bit about that today because we are going to talk a lot about history. But I think the general agenda that I always try to promote with my work, if it is with my music or my writing or this stream that you're watching now, is this idea that we need to realize that we are not just alone, just by ourselves in this world. There are other people, there are other nations. They all have their stories, they all have their cultures, they all have the things that they want, and we must find a way to mitigate that. We must find a way to come to like a sort of a common denominator place where we can sort of live with each other and develop ourselves instead of waste resources, destroying ourselves basically. So that's just in the very big terms. I mean, the stream today is not going to be about that, or maybe it is going to be a little bit about that. Um, Also, people who have been following me for a while will know that I also have a school bus in the United States that I use to travel around, and in the future, it's gonna turn into a mobile performing arts platform because my idea is bringing this multiculturalism and artistic expression to anywhere and everywhere that I can get to, basically. So that's what's that about. So I'm really happy to have you here. I'm really happy that you're watching this stream. And if you're watching right now live, please feel free to say hello to me using the chat function. Would love to hear from you. Just say hello. You can do it if you're watching this on Facebook, Twitch, YouTube, and so on. Just write to me your comments anytime during the stream. I can talk and talk, but don't let that prevent you from doing. Oh, hold on, sorry, my phone kind of went off, which is hold on. Let me just make sure that it's not because this is the roof bait in the where I'm at right now. Yes, sorry about that. Hopefully it wasn't important. This is yeah, this is a proof that you're watching this live, and nothing is well, some stuff are prepared, but it's not. This is just my life. This is where I'm at right now. I'm in this apartment in Geneva that I got from Airbnb. Just and there's some roommates here. Very nice people so far. Yeah. So, what was I saying? Yes. Today we are going to talk about Florence, Italy, because that's where I've been. Let's see, I left there a week and a half ago, pretty much is when I left Florence. And that was the second destination of my current ongoing and developing journey through Europe, which started from Rome. And by the way, I did do a stream, even a stream and a half, I would say, or even two streams about Rome. But also, you should know that I'm gonna have this kind of let's say, I don't know how to call it yet. It's a video that's gonna come up on my YouTube channel, and it's sort of just a few minutes, just a montage of a bunch of video footage that I shot in Rome, and I'm doing some voiceovers on top of that, like a voiceover, and it's kind of cool. I think it's gonna come up really nice. So stay tuned for that, and I'm probably gonna start doing it for all of the, or at least most of the destinations that I'm gonna visit during this journey. So stay tuned. We're going to talk about Florence today, but also stay tuned for a similar video of Florence and other things that I'm going to post on my Facebook and Instagram. Tune into that. I post a lot of cool stuff. All right, let's get to it. So Florence, Italy. So as I said, I've been there about a week and a half ago. I've been there for a week with my family. That was the only part of the journey. This is a journey that I went out, like I took, I'm completely solo in this journey. I'm traveling by myself, even without my bus Ellipsis that's waiting for me in California, United States. But when I started planning this journey all these months ago, my mom was also she knew that she was gonna be in Florence in June, at the end of June, beginning of July, because she was doing a residency there. She's an artist. She's a potter. So she did a residency in a village in Tuscany, and then she wanted to do another week just being a tourist in Florence, which is something we're definitely going to talk about today. And I said, of course, I wanted to join her, so I set up the dates and everything, and I joined her on this trip with my aunt and another a very close colleague of my mom that I've known my whole life, and we basically kind of did a tour of Florence together. Now, let me get right into the subject and talk about what I would consider with myself. I call it sort of the tourist dilemma, and it's that's how I call it. That's how I see it in my mind, and it's something that I legitimately don't. It is a dilemma. It's not like a question in the sense that I have like a specific answer that I'm going to give you today. Oh yeah, this is what I think. This is a dilemma that I'm kind of struggling with every time that I go to a different country where I don't live and work, and like the United States, for example, because I've lived there for like 5 years, 7 years almost. So that's a whole different story. But just being a tourist, right, in a foreign country, how do you do it? And let me be more kind of specific about my question. See. Here's the thing, right? It's great to go someplace and be a tourist, but what I've noticed, and this is from my own personal life, is that when you actually live in a place and when that place has a lot of tourists, you don't like the tourists. In fact, you hate the tourists, right? And I've noticed this in my hometown of Tel Aviv, Israel. That's where I'm originally from. So we do get, of course, a lot of tourists in Tel Aviv, and it's a very cosmopolitan city, a lot of foreign nationals as well. And sometimes they really get on your nerves, right? We also get, and this is, by the way, this is an important point here that I'm also going to make about Florence. This is not just about tourism, that is like people coming from other countries into your country. In a lot of countries, I've noticed, and this is true about Israel and this is true about Italy as well, there is local tourism, which means that people from not outside your country but in your country, but from other areas of the country, come to your city or where you happen to be staying it. And this usually happens I think in the big cities, right, where there are sources for like there are attractions for tourists, but it could happen like in there are also some touristic places that are really remote, but they're so well known that just everyone goes there. So you will see this really remote place in the middle of nowhere, but in that place it's packed with tourists just because everyone knows about it and everyone goes there. But let's say it's a big city, you live in a big city like that, and you end up hating a lot of these tourists, whether they come from outside your country and or they come from inside your country, but like different cities, and so being aware of that, I'm always, oh yeah, by the way, in New York that I lived in for 4 years, oh my god, ask any New Yorker if they like seeing tourists in New York, and they will tell you no, because they walk so slowly, and New Yorkers like to walk fast. And if you block a New Yorker, and it's like, you know, it's like blocking a bulldozer. You just, it's gonna, he's gonna walk all over you, basically. But yeah, so that's so that's why I get this feeling and I get this dilemma when I'm a tourist, which is how do I behave? How do I behave in a way? Because I mean, of course, there are some things that you do as a tourist which I want to do as a tourist as well. You know, I want to go and take a lot of pictures. I may even take a selfie or two, right? And I want to go and I want to make videos and I want to be like, excuse me, where's the bathroom? And how do you pay for the train? And like asking all those questions, which yeah, you have to do as that's you're in a foreign place, so of course you're gonna do it. But then on the other hand, I'm always like, how do I do it without without just like being that guy, without being this annoying tourist. And look, obviously, it all comes to interpersonal relations, right? If you come to a person, doesn't matter what is his or her opinion about tourists, and you just be nice, you just be a kind person to them. You smile, you're polite, etc., etc. And they're not gonna hate you, right? They're not gonna be angry at you. Also, an important point to make, and I will be making it a lot today, is that a lot of places really need tourists. They need tourism, all right? And Florence is definitely an example of that, because you think of this city that has so much ancient, not necessarily that ancient. Some of it is from the Renaissance, which is not that long ago. I still remember it. No, I'm kidding. But you have all this history and all this art, a lot of art we're gonna see today, right? And but functionally, right, in terms of what makes the city money, it's it's based on the tourists that are coming to see this art. It's not based on the art in and of itself. And last week we had a stream where we talked about the Medici family. That, as you know, they come from Florence, and they actually ruled Florence for even several centuries, right, in history. And they were a family of investors and bankers that had a shitload of money and just invested so much of it in art. And it was a very smart thing that they did that, because they guaranteed that even nowadays, the city of Florence is bustling because so many people come from all over the world to see this art. Now, is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? That's where the dilemma comes in. And that's what I'm going to tell you a little later in the stream, where, I got a chance to meet some locals and ask them what they think about the fact that their city is just so full of tourists, right? Especially where we were, which is the old town kind of center area where all the big churches and the big museums. But yeah, I'm gonna talk to you about that. I want to make sure I got all the subjects that I wanted to talk about today sort of organized, so I don't miss anything, and we'll keep what I just said in mind. And I'm gonna start my screen sharing here, and just show you some pictures. Sorry, and just I'm gonna start by saying, look, I really was a tourist in Florence. Like, I took so many pictures. I ended up with over 1,000 pictures, right? And of course, a lot of them were like duplicates. A lot of them didn't look too good, so I deleted a lot of them. But I'm still left with a few hundreds, right? I didn't count it, but at least 600, I would say, or something like that. And I'm not gonna. It's not possible to show them all to you, and you would be incredibly bored if I just kind of showed them to you and stopped on each and every picture. So a lot of these, I'm really gonna skim. Like, I'm really gonna pass through, like, really quick, Also, you will notice that there's a lot of recurring theme, like obviously a lot of churches, a lot of Jesus murals and sculptures and stained glass windows and whatever, and frescoes, Renaissance art, all of the things that you would expect to see, honestly, in a stream about traveling in Florence. But what I will say is that I also want to work on doing in the future this image gallery that people who donated to my Patreon are going to have access to. If you like this idea, feel free to let me know. And then that will be a resource where you can go and look at all the pictures that I took if you want to at your own time and pace. So do let me know what you think about that, because I did pose this question last time as well. What would you expect to get from a Patreon page, channel? Yeah, so please tell me in the chat or comment on the live stream, whatever you want. So yeah, let's start. Let's start from, okay, let's just start from a few churches, right? A few basilicas. Or you know what? Yeah. No, I'm gonna start from the main one. I think that would be a good, because I do have a lot of stuff to talk about and we might not get to all of it. So the main one, right? The big banana. Why did I just say that? It's the Duomo Cathedral in Florence. And this is the big church in the middle of town, as you know, in those times, medieval and going into the Renaissance, pretty much all European settlements, period, had to have a huge church in the middle that always had to be higher, much higher than anything else, which, I think really serves the religion, honestly. I'm Jewish myself, by the way, but as I said, I come from Israel. But my impression of at least the Catholic branch of Christianity that is now preserved in places like Rome and Florence, etc., is that they knew the importance of a good show. They knew the importance of a good spectacle, of making sure that people realize that God is just this huge, unfathomable thing that is bigger than anything else. And this is why you see this amazing dome, amazing cathedral. This dome, by the way, was built by Brunelleschi. Sorry, I almost said Berlusconi, and that's totally a different guy. No, Brunelleschi, the architect, which we're gonna see some more about pretty soon. So as I said, I'm gonna skim through that. So let's just kind of go through a few pictures, just so you can kind of get an idea of this really amazing architecture and incredibly elaborate work that took decades to complete, right? It's called the La Campanile, which is the bell tower, right? There always has to be a bell as well, because it's not just about worshiping God; it's also about keeping the time. And you're gonna see in a second. I'm gonna show you a video of me going up this tower, which we did way too early in the morning. I totally wasn't prepared for going up all these steps, but it's worth it for this kind of view, right? You can see what I'm talking about. Just this gorgeous view. And notice that Florence is, like we also said about Rome last time, it's a very conservative city architecturally speaking. They don't have any skyscrapers, they don't have many modern buildings or at all. Okay, this is already from the bell tower. But this is kind of, I guess, it's something that they're doing to preserve the look of the city, essentially. And yeah, it's all part, once again, of this idea of how this image of the city and the kind of tourists that this image brings preserve the existence of the city, financially at least. Okay, let me do this video, and I need to silence. I need to remember to silence the video so you don't just hear people chatting in the background. And I'm not gonna probably show all of it like this, but I'm gonna sort of also kind of skim through it, just going up and up the bell tower in these very kind of medieval style, you know, tiny corridors where you have to stop every time to let people also come down. But we arrived pretty early in the morning, so it wasn't that busy. Just going up and up. I'm sorry, there's actually a lot of glare from the sun here because it's the early morning, so I apologize about that, but I'm still tried to get like some nice decent views. Here you can see, there we go. See? So yeah, it's, you know, I wasn't prepared for this kind of climb, and I was very sweaty at the end. This is not the end. This is just the floor in the middle where you stop and then you go some more stairs and see some more views. So I was pretty exhausted, honestly, and sweaty when I got to the top, but I guess it's worth it just to see these views, right? These amazing views from the top of Florence. Some more steps. I don't remember the number of steps. I should probably remember, but I don't. If you want to check it, feel free to. But it does say somewhere online the exact number of steps. Something, I think, something in the vicinity of 500 steps. Yeah, and there you go. This is the view from the top. I'm gonna, hold on, sorry. Okay, there we go. It's the view from the top of the bell tower and the Duomo, next to the Duomo Cathedral in Florence. And yeah, boy, it's a sight to behold. It's a sight to behold. It's unfortunate that this net has to be here, but of course it's for safety. Otherwise I could have gotten a better kind of shot, but yeah, it's pretty nice. Let me see if there's some more nice views here. Yeah, there you go. You see, just this is the city. Not even one skyscraper in sight. The cathedral is still the biggest by far. Yeah. But I like doing that. I like, you know, I like going up to these high places and seeing the city from the top. It always gives you like a different perspective, I guess. Yeah. All right, and so we're gonna move on a little bit, and let's see where we are with the time. Good. So this was the bell tower. I'm gonna spare you. Well, okay. There's some of these cool pictures here. There's the actual bell, right? And some more cool views, just skimming through that. And this is the inside of the cathedral. So you can see, and there's a crypt underneath where they did some archaeological digs that found stuff from different periods of history. There's some explanations about that. Jesus, and Jesus on the cross, which is, once again, as you can imagine, it's a recurring theme, and yeah, it's really cool. Oh, by the way, this symbol, these 5 dots, I ended up seeing them everywhere. Sometimes it's 6 dots, or sometimes even more, but it's usually 5. When very famous figure from that time. We may talk about him a little more. I made a picture of the church organ, just because I like church organs. I'm a pianist myself. An organ and a piano are totally different instruments, but they kind of look the same because they're both keyboard controlled. So I've always been interested in church organs. And this is this, yeah, it's just the pictures speak for themselves. This is the baptistry outside of the Duomo, also a very impressive structure. And yeah, just look at all this. Yeah, all this amazing work. Ceilings, by the way, is something that we're gonna see today also a lot, because the ceilings are amazing. Just look at this ceiling. Cool. All right. So now that's that for the outside, at least, of the Duomo. Let's see if we have some messages in the chat. No, not right now. Okay, cool. If you want to write anything to me, yeah, feel free to. Otherwise, I'm just gonna move on to some more. So there is the museum of the Duomo, which is quite interesting, but I don't know if I'm really gonna have the time to give it justice. Or okay, we'll see. We'll just move on a little bit. And this is, I'm just gonna go real quick through some other churches. This is Basilica di San Lorenzo. And it's kind of like every day we went to a different church, almost pretty much, in the 7 days that we were there. And I gotta say, at some point, they all kind of look the same. And they all have these ceilings, right? And they all have these pillars. And oh, this is kind of funny. I really like that, and you can see these all over the city in general, which is those hooks that are just connected to the walls, and these were for horses, right? When people used horses, they would come and they would tie their horse to the ring, and there is a bunch of rings like that just around the streets in Florence. So imagine that. Imagine just like there's no other form of transportation in the world yet, but walking in horses or carriages, which are also led by horses, and you just come and you tie your horse to the ring and you continue your business. It's the Uber of it's not really the Uber, but you know. So that's kind of interesting to see. And in almost every church, there's also like a bunch of, sculptures and paintings and big figures that were buried there, and and important people that went through there. This is also kind of interesting. I'm going to show you. You're going to see it in another image gallery as well. So this is a staircase, right? Obviously, but the interesting about this, the interesting thing about this staircase for me is that it has those, and you're going to see in another album that there are those rings. I don't know if you can see that. It's kind of in a different album that I have. You're going to see it more clearly, but. There are these rings on the sides of the steps, and I didn't know at the beginning what they were for, because the other staircase that I saw first doesn't have this carpet, right? And this one has, and now you can see what the purpose of the rings is, because they hold these, that you put these poles through the rings, and then they hold the carpet in place, so it doesn't slide over the steps when people are stepping on it. So pretty cool. I didn't I didn't even have it in my frame of reference because I've never seen it before. It makes total sense, but yeah, it's just a little cool thing that I saw. So we're gonna move on. This is a very cool, as I said, every church has some kind of a museum. Like it's all together. The history, the history museums and the churches are usually kind of together in the same place. So you see all of these pots and pottery made in the style. Oh, by the way, look, you can see the insignia of the Medici family again here. Those 5/6 dots, as I said, or it's the sixth dot is in a different color, but it's the same kind of idea. It's the same kind of symbol also here and here and here. So once again, of course, they were all over the place. And this room was interesting for us, especially for my mom, because as I said, she's a potter, and the method that they use here. This is what she told me. I'm not a huge pottery expert, but the method that they use to make all this work, which is very common in works from old Tuscany. It's called maiolica, and it's a technique where you put a glaze on a ceramic surface, um, and then onto the glaze you use coloring in order to create the painting on the glaze itself, which is different than the way they usually do it in other styles of pottery, because usually you want to put the paint before the glaze is on the pot or plate or whatever. But this special technique is using the color on the glaze, and it's just extremely common in Tuscany. And you can still go to a bunch of stores in Tuscany and buy this kind of pottery. And actually, one of the potters that my mom met and that I later met, Veronica, she makes this kind of pottery as well. And she was saying something along those lines of like, yeah, this is what tourists are interested in seeing when they come to Florence. It's not necessarily what she would want to do every single day, but it's, or these specific like sort of visual language, but it is what the tourists are buying, so that's what you got to do. Which is, once again, we're going back to the subject of tourism. But here's some more things from the church and the museum next to it, and there you go. This is, as I said, eventually they all start to look kind of the same, but still, every time you see this kind of site, it's jaw-dropping, because just look at this structure. First of all, just look at the people, right? The ceiling is so much higher than the people. It's like there's not even it's just those tiny people down there and this high ceiling up here, and man, look at the ceiling. I mean, yeah. And once again, the Medici insignia here, shield. Just this, and this is not even the most extravagant ceiling that I've seen. You wait till I mean, there's so much more. There's so much more than that, and it's just amazing. And of course, when you go under the dome, you see some more Renaissance artwork. And the pulpits, which were, by the way, designed by none other than Donatello, the famous Ninja Turtle. No, the famous Renaissance artist, sculptor, right? Yeah, some more of that. I'm just gonna move on. As I said, we don't have time for all these churches. This is a really nice dome with like the zodiac, map of the sky, kind of. It's cool. It's a cool little painting. And yeah, and these are the cloisters. These sculptures are actually modern, but they sort of convey, they relate to the antiquity. This is oh yeah, this is the burying place of Cosimo de' Medici, who was the father of the big Medici family, and he's buried here. Yeah, tomb of Cosimo. And this is some more stuff. Blah 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 blah. Okay, I'm just gonna. Oh yeah, Donatello is also buried here. So there's the tomb of Donatello as well. And as I said, every church has some famous people buried in. This is some more contemporary work. All right, moving on. As I said, just skimming through churches, all the churches in the world. Don't worry, I'm not even gonna do all of them. Let's see if I do have something interesting. I mean, every church has something interesting to it, but once again, a lot of it is more of the same ideas. Ooh, I do want to show you these. First of all, it's a really nice and yet another church organ, right, which I like to take photos of. But what I really wanted to show you here is those stained glass windows. This is, and it's not like even, my camera doesn't do justice to how beautiful they are, because the light is too strong, and I had to really work with the brightness settings on the camera in order to get like a decent picture. But even just the way it is now, you can see that it's so, the work is so detailed, and it's so like lush with details and ornamentations and colors. It's my kind of take on it is that I wouldn't necessarily want to actually live in a place like this that has all this super busy ornamentation. Like, I'm very much a minimalist, and I like to have just, I have no problem with empty walls and no decorations. And I do appreciate the value of this kind of work as well, and these decorations, but I don't know if I would want to actually live in it. I think after a while it would be a little heavy, or I don't know, to have this huge cross hanging above my head. Obviously, it's like nobody actually lives in a church, but a lot of we're gonna see a palace soon where people actually sort of lived, and it kind of looks the same way. And once again, it is gorgeous as like to just take a photo of, but I don't know if I would want to live in it. And of course, the gardens, cloisters are beautiful. Just gonna move forward real quick. Some more domes, some more ceilings, some more maiolica. Okay, moving on. Moving on to, yeah. Let's see, actually. Oh, I know what's the next thing. So the next thing is the Uffizi Museum. Well, let's see, actually. No, I think we're gonna go to, we're gonna go to the palace. We're gonna go to the Palazzo Pitti, which was actually just couple of minutes walk from the Airbnb where we were staying, and this is the entrance to the palace, and we are gonna pass real quick through the gardens, because in that day it was supposed to rain, and it did rain in the morning, so we only got a chance to be in the gardens just for like an hour or two, or maybe even less. It wasn't that much. But we still got a chance to see how beautiful these gardens are. This is the Boboli Gardens next to Palazzo Pitti in Florence. So you can see the Duomo, of course, and it's just lovely gardens, as you would expect from the Medici family. All these, of course, the palace also belonged to them. It's almost redundant saying it, but yeah. And these creative sculptures and little ponds and little and oh, this is interesting. I found out that this sculpture is actually related to no, is it this one? No, I'm sorry, I'm confusing. But I think that this sculpture is the Roman god of agriculture, which I remember her Hellenistic name. It's Demeter, but I don't remember the Roman name. But yeah, there we go. All these awesome sculptures and fountains at the Boboli Gardens, and this nice view from the top, and all these flowers, all these meticulously kept gardens, right? And these sculptures all over the place. And moving on to the palace itself, so you can already see it's going to be extravagant. I mean, it is a palace, so, it's kind of required, I think. And I'm gonna really, so here there are some amazing ceilings. So every room you go to basically is full to the brim. And it's crazy because this place has a lot of rooms. There are probably close to 30 rooms, I want to say, in this place. And every room literally is packed to the brim with sculptures, with Renaissance paintings, and the ceilings are always extraordinary. So, exhibit A, right? Just look at this ceiling. Um, and of course, the ceilings here are also high, not as high as the church, but still very high. So you walk into this huge room with this high ceiling that is so ornately decorated, and you really get this kind of realization. This is an interesting painting, but we'll move through. And this is a sculpture of the young Michelangelo. It wasn't made by Michelangelo. It was made on, like, it is supposed to depict the young Michelangelo. But yeah, you really get the sense that all these uber rich people. This is, by the way, paintings about the history of the mythology, I guess, of Hercules. You get the sense that really rich people lived here, and they bought just incredible amounts of art. And then what are you gonna do with this art? Well, you put it on display in these huge rooms. But once again, every room is packed to the brim, so there's a lot of it. And I'm sure it's not even all of it. I'm sure because this family existed for several generations and centuries, so they collected a lot of art. This is actually a psalm from the Bible that is written in Hebrew. It basically says, "Whatever I will be, I will be." But once again, look at all this. And everything here also is very highly symbolized, right? You have to remember that every little painting here means something. It's a part of the story, usually a religious story. Usually it's like the three wise men coming to the birth of Jesus, or Jesus Last Supper, or Mary and visited by angels. There's all this symbolism, and everything is so detailed and ornate. It looks like, obviously, and this is about some Jewish history as well. You can see the menorah in the background, and I forget why this room in particular contained a lot of things related to Jewish history, but yeah. And once again, ceilings, me with a ceiling. This is apparently Napoleon's bathroom. All right, I'm just gonna read. This room was started under Napoleon, the royal architect Giuseppe Cacciali, who was appointed by the Grand Duchess. Okay, the bathroom was included in the area of the palace, which was renovated. Okay, this is not that important information, but yeah, Napoleon's bathroom. If you wanted to see, maybe this is how this guy bathed himself all those centuries ago. And then he did some other things as well. So, some more paintings, some more ceilings. This is just... I hope you're enjoying this, even though I'm skimming through it real fast. As I said, if you wanted to, even now actually, if you wanted to see some pictures up close, I can always send them to you. Look at once again, the shield here with the 5 dots. Well, 5 red dots and 1 other colored, I think it's usually blue dot of the Medici family. This is an interesting story. This is actually a dwarf that was in service of Cosimo, and he was his favorite dwarf, believe it or not. And it was so he was so important to Cosimo. He was so favored by his that he dedicated this painting to him. That he made a painting of him. Essentially, I think obviously nowadays it's very not politically correct to say something like, "Oh, my favorite dwarf," right? But this is at a time where I guess this particular dwarf was a some sort of a court jester of some kind, and apparently the Cosimo de Medici really loved him. So good for him. At least he made it in life. Okay. This is, of course, a sculpture of Venus, which I also filmed the butt of because I like butts. I like big butts, and I cannot lie. But it's not just, I don't want you to think I'm a chauvinist because I also make pictures of butts of male sculptures as well, which maybe we'll see a little bit later. And some more. Wow, just look at that. I mean, look at that. Can you imagine how many hours it took to make this? Not just for one person. It was probably many people who worked on this ceiling. And then with like standing or even lying down or sitting on these huge constructions to kind of get to the ceiling and build this. And this is Victor Hugo. So you can see his sculpture here. Alright, and kind of moving on. That's the Palazzo Pitti. Pitti. I don't want it to sound like pity. It's not a pity. It's Palazzo Pitti. Okay. Wow. As I imagined, we are slowly running out of time, and this is not even close to the amount of churches that I saw. So as I said, I'm gonna skip over the rest. Let's go to the Uffizi Museum real quick because it's a big famous museum. Oh, and this is what I wanted to show you earlier. The picture of the stairs with the rings on them, just without the carpet. So now you can see the rings that the poles are going through that I showed you before to sort of keep the carpet in place, but the staircase here didn't have that, so you can see how it looks without it. And obviously Uffizi Museum, very big famous museum, packed with people, packed with big important sculptures and ceilings. Once again, a lot of them. I'm going to show you a video in a second where you're going to see all that. Actually, maybe I should show you this video now. I think, okay, it's just so much stuff to see. I told you it's gonna be hard. There's a lot of pictures, and these are all like frescoes from the Renaissance. So obviously each of them are amazing in its own right, but it's very hard to just stop on each one of them. This is Cosimo and his wife. Oh no, I'm sorry. This is Duke and Duchess of Urbino. Okay, my apologies. And okay, I'm just gonna show you the real famous stuff by Botticelli. Annunciation, right? One of his most famous paintings, right here. Botticelli, the famous artist from the Renaissance, right? And then, of course, the birth of. Sorry, I apologize. This is the spring. This is La Primavera. This is not Annunciation. Annunciation was the previous one. Yeah, there we go. My apologies. Just escaped my mind. This is, of course, La Primavera, the spring by Botticelli, a very famous painting. And then we also have the birth of Venus, probably his most famous painting, and it's hanging right here. And look, it's nice. It's nice seeing all these pictures, which are famous. So you can see at the Uffizi Museum. All right, I'm gonna talk about this in a second. Just going through more frescoes, more pictures. I'm telling you, I was a tourist. I took a lot of pictures. This is an interesting room. This is the map. It's called the map terrace. And on the walls there are these very cool maps, and I'm a huge map nerd, I call myself. So I just like seeing maps. Something visually about maps really attracts my attention. Let me see if, okay, there we go. Something about maps really attracts my attention, and I like seeing them, especially when they are old, because it's cool to see how people related to geography in the past. So we got that. We got, and by the way, I could see here on this map, I could find some places that later I went to visit. For example, Luca, which I don't know if I can find now here. It is somewhere here. But yeah, and there's a bunch of other villages, Empoli, that so many of these places obviously still exist to this day, in the same place. And the village that my mom was doing the residency, we also find it on the map here. So this is kind of cool. Moving on and moving on and moving on to different kind of work a little bit, but I mean these are also very famous. This is Hans Hemling, another very famous painter, but once again I can't go over everything. So moving on and moving on and moving on. Another crazy ceiling. Can you imagine having something like this in your house? I mean, it would be your entire house, literally. Oh yeah, this is interesting. This is a portrait of Martin Luther and his wife. Martin Luther, as you know, started the Protestant Revolution, and then centuries after, a guy with his same name, just with the king at the end, in the United States, also made a very interesting revolution happen. Okay, pictures, paintings of Adam and Eve, sculptures. This is, I think this is Hercules. Oh no, I think this is Bacchus. This is the god. This is also Hellenistic art, and this is just us. Okay, moving on. Yeah. So when everyone was interested in paintings on the wall, I just looked at this cute girl who works at the and I feel okay showing her picture because it doesn't show the face, so you don't know who that is unless you are that girl. Which if you are that girl who works in the Uffizi Museum and you recognize your picture, just know that you're very cute. And moving on. Another very famous painting on a shield made by Caravaggio, the Medusa, Testa di Medusa. Yeah. And there we go. All right. So, I'm going to move on here. Sorry. Just going to take care of something here. Okay. So, now I want to show you a video from the museum. And I can already see that we're going to have to split this. Well, no, I don't think. Sorry, I just got a few messages here. Okay. There we go, we're back. Okay, hope you are enjoying this so far. Please let me know in the chat if you do. Cool. Okay, okay. Mm. So I think what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna show you this video that is just showing the Uffizi Museum, and specifically the long stretch of these amazing ceilings that are to be seen here. Let me find it real quick. And in the meantime, while I'm doing that, I hope you can see it. And in the meantime, while I'm doing that, I wanted to talk about what we have, what I've mentioned before about this thing of the tourism. So, as I said, Florence is a very touristic place, obviously, and it's something that you can definitely see on the streets when you walk there, and obviously you are a part of it. The other thing is that the sidewalks are very narrow, so there isn't a lot of place for people to walk. So usually there's only a place for like one or two people walking side by side. If there's a group of tourists walking really slow, it's noticeable. And even if they aren't, it's just noticeable because the sidewalk is so tiny. And people walk in the street a lot as well, like on the road, but then there are cars as well. And it's kind of this interesting dynamic that I noticed later also in Lucca in Tuscany for a different reason, but that's another place where I noticed that the cars and the people are in the same place together. There is a sidewalk, but it's not much of a sidewalk to talk about. So yeah, while you're seeing all these amazing ceilings, once again, I want to bring you to this idea that tourism supports a city like Florence, right? But at the same time, it also it kind of, you really notice the tourism, and it can cause some detrimental things in the city. And for example, I can say that in one of the nights that we were in Florence, me and my mom were invited to her a friend of a friend's house that she met when she did the residency the week before. So it's like a friend of a friend, and he's a Florence local. So he was born and raised in Florence, and he still has his house. By the way, the video, you can see like ceiling after ceiling after ceiling. This is actually me going through the whole thing, and soon I think you're gonna see a view of the entire, this huge corridor. But so we went for a dinner at the house of this guy who was born and raised in Florence, and the house belongs to his family. So that's where he always lived. He's a Florence local. However, what he told us is that he's actually a sort of a dying breed of people, because there aren't that many actual Florence locals left. I mean, yes, of course there are. I mean, it still is a city, and there was one evening where we just went for a walk outside the city. Yeah, you can see the whole corridor now. And when we went for that walk, we did see just some local people. We even saw like kids playing in the playground and playing soccer and whatever, and going for a picnic, family. So obviously local people, but there aren't that many. And he basically said, and at least the center of town is all for tourists and for people who work in the tourist industry. I'm just gonna while I'm talking about it, I'm also gonna show you just a video from the Palazzo Pitti that we saw earlier, just so you have something cool to look at while you listen to me talk. And yeah, And he said that during COVID, the city was basically empty of people. And, I don't know what I think about that because, I mean, yes, COVID was a very, very, let's say, extraordinary situation, right? I mean, we can all agree on that. Very extraordinary situation in the history of the world, and especially in the recent history. But so obviously the tourism has come back since then, and probably it's a good thing because, as I said, it does provide money to the city. But it also kind of makes you sad to think that if the tourists don't come, the city is empty, and you don't feel like it's a like the locals, or at least one local, and this is just, obviously this is just the opinion and experience of one person, but the locals don't feel like their city is alive when the tourists are not there. And when they are there, it is alive, but it's alive in a very, not in a very, let's say, community oriented way, because the tourists, they come there and they're not a part of the community. How can they be a part of the community? They just come, we just come, I should say, because I was there as a tourist as well. We just come there for a few days, for a week. We want to see all the big places that everyone talks about. We want to see all the big art pieces that everyone talks about. um, and and yeah, and it kind of, it doesn't feel like it's really, the tourists are not really connected to the city on a human level, right? They walk the streets, they go and they pay their money at the museums and at the churches, and it's a good thing they do, but they're not really connected to the community. And it's a little bit sad to think that Florence now has much less of a vibrant community. I don't want to say because of the tourists, but at least, I mean, it's part of the reason. It's part of what's happening. And it's part of what's happening to a lot of cities like that in the world as well, especially in places like that, like this, where there's a lot of history. And this thing of like, short-term vacation rentals, like Airbnb, for example, basically taking every single apartment in the city to make it into a hotel for people that we were staying in as well. But this local guy, this friend of a friend, said something about how, the people that are still locals that hold apartments in the cities, they are sometimes very old people, and sometimes because their financial situation isn't really good, they are sort of pushed, not pushed, but let's say that there are people who are very interested in buying the apartments from them in order to make them into a vacation rental, a short-term vacation rental on websites like Airbnb and Booking.com and all that, which I don't want to say that they are bad in any way. From the Duomo Cathedral, it's a short video. I don't think that this is necessarily bad in any way, the short-term vacation rentals. But he told us of stories about people who were not pushed out of their apartments, but let's say that somebody was really, really waiting for them to die already so they can buy the place and make it to another tourist hosting place. So I'm kind of telling you all about this, not that you come to hate tourists or feel bad about tourism. And as I said, I do like being a tourist in places. I do like going to places and taking pictures and being that guy. But it is also, I think, worthwhile to remember while we are doing it, that we are guests, and that, we are welcome guests, obviously, in a lot of these places. Um, I don't know. For me, I always try to keep in my head this sort of realization that I want to be a guest, but I don't want to be an intruder. I don't want to be an intruder on other people's life and society. And I also think it's also it's very good to be polite to people who are in the hospitality industry in those places. So it's all those, first of all, like, just servers in like restaurants and cooks and waiters and stuff. Always be polite to them. That's just a good policy wherever you are. But also to the people who are guarding the touristic places, right? The people who work at the museum, the people who work, just try to be really nice and polite to those people, because they asked they get asked the same question about a billion times every day. And I've also worked in these kind of works, so I'm sympathetic. Kind of jobs, I'm sympathetic. I know kind of what the kind of the just being asked where the bathroom is for the 200-300th time of that day is just sometimes can get on your nerves if you're not in a good mental emotional space. So just be really polite, I think, and just be respectful and conscious of the fact that when you are a tourist, you are being in a place that relies on you, but also, still deserves to have a community of its own. And you should really try to hopefully preserve this community. For me, it was kind of sad to hear from that local guy that the city doesn't feel alive in the sense that it has a community. It just has a lot of tourists coming in and coming and leaving and coming and leaving, and it's a constant revolving door kind of situation. So it is the way it is, and I don't want to say don't go to Florence. Go to Florence, please, but just be aware that this is the situation. Okay, still moving on. I actually think that we are in good timing, so we might even get to see another church. Aren't you excited to see another church? Before we do that, let's watch. I just made a video. Okay, so as you know, I'm also about music, and I made a video of this Chinese guy actually who played the saxophone really nice outside of the Hospitale della Innocenti, which is the first. It's the first orphanage that was built in Florence, I think, and I want to say maybe in Tuscany as well. It was like one of the first orphanages that were built at a time when people realized that maybe we should take care of at least some of these kids who don't have parents. Maybe that would be a good thing. Yeah, probably. It is a good thing. But let me show you the video of the Chinese guy who was just playing some really nice saxophone. And I like the fact that, at least in this clip that I filmed of his, he doesn't play jazz music. It's actually sort of more classical music type of classical music for saxophone, which is not something that you hear very often. I don't know what the name of this piece is. If somebody recognizes, let me know. But and I like his pants as well. His pants are cool. All right, just a cool little musical interlude. I also wanted to break just from talking and talking and moving on. What else do we have? Oh, yeah. So, another museum, but a very different museum. A very different museum from what we've seen so far. This is called the Da Vinci Interactive, Leonardo da Vinci Interactive Museum. And it was actually a really nice experience. We didn't plan on going there. We just sort of stumbled through it. Sorry, stumbled through it on the way from somewhere to somewhere else. I don't even remember because it's all becoming a mush in my head. But the cool thing about this museum is it is about Leonardo da Vinci, but it's not about like his paintings or the story of his life. It's about his inventions. As you know, Leonardo da Vinci was an inventor as well. One of his, of course, famous sort of drawings, but he had all these notebooks where he made drawings of different inventions, and these drawings were made to life in this museum. All of these things that he developed, or at least made drawings of. And I think the amazing thing is that a lot of these things show really interesting understanding that he had about the mechanics of how things work. Just the basic mechanics of cogwheels turning other cogwheels and turning levers and all that. And you might hear it and say, well, okay, it doesn't sound so special, but especially at that time, those kind of things were very special. And I'll just show you some of the inventions, which are honestly quite amazing for their time, quite, groundbreaking. This is a mortar, so this is it's a big cannon mounted on a heavy support, and you can basically when you shoot it, it also shoots all of a lot of projectiles that's inside of it. So it's basically in Da Vinci's version of cluster munitions. If you know what that is, it has been in the headlines a lot these past 2 weeks, so maybe you've heard the name before. But here's an interesting thing. It says here, however, Leonardo, great inventor of war machines, used to talk about the war as a beastly madness. So I think it's something interesting. It's an interesting point to make, which is, yes, he invented a lot of stuff for war, as did many other inventors of that time, and not just of that time, right? Einstein developed the theory of relativity, but in using that theory, engineers several decades later used it to develop the atomic bomb. However, Einstein was not in support of war, completely the other way around. He ran away from Germany during World War II. And he was not, well, he was Jewish as well, obviously, but he was not at all in favor of war, actually completely against it. And Leonardo da Vinci as well, even though he invented machines of war, he was against war. It was kind of like, it was part of his, I guess, what he did to invent those things. But he didn't like it. And I think it's interesting to see that all of those people who reached a high level of knowledge and culture kind of detest war. Because I think when you get to this level, you understand that war is just a waste of resources. Pretty much, except for the fact that it's not moral and the violence is horrible and horrific. But also when you come down to it, it's just a waste of time and resources. You're building something. If you're Leonardo da Vinci, if you're a Renaissance artist and you build sculptures and you make paintings, and then you work on those amazing ceilings for years, and then a war happens and it all destroyed. It's senseless, is what it is. War is senseless. But speaking about war, so okay, this is just, it's pretty grotesque, but it's an interesting. So this is another one of Leonardo da Vinci's inventions, and it's this sort of of a carriage thing that you not a carriage, but like you it's connected to the horse, as you see, and you carry it with your horse. And the thing is that as these wheels move, there's this big thing that is moving. I don't know if you can see it, but here you can see it much better on top of the wheels. And there are these sharp sides, and you see the dismembered body of this person on the ground. This is an unfortunate robber that was attempting to attack the person here sitting on the horse, but because the wheels are turning the sides all the time, and you can see this is a video that they make where you can see the kind of how the system is built. It's very, very hard to attack these spinning blades they just keep spinning as long as the horse is riding. So if you were trying to rob this person on the horse, he would have quite fierce protection. And we have some more machines of war, this scaling thing for scaling the wall. This is very interesting, and this is what I'm talking about when I'm saying he was much ahead of his time, and he had a very deep understanding of how things worked, which is, this is a hygrometer. So it measures humidity in the air, and the way it does that is actually very ingenious. So this is a scale, as you can see, and there's a block of something solid here, like completely solid, that does not does not attract, does not change with moisture. And then on the other side there is something of an equal weight. However, this is like a piece of cloth or wool or something like that, and it changes when there's moisture in the air. So it absorbs moisture and it can become heavier, or if there's no moisture, it will become lighter. And based on that, based on where the scale is tipping, and there's also like a ruler here with lines that signify some sort of a scaling system, you know how much moisture is in the air. And this is genius. It's a very simple system. Remember, of course, he did not have computer chips. He did not have silicon printed circuits, integrated circuits, but he still made a hygrometer. And there's some more cool things here. This is also, once again, this measures like the force of the wind. So when the wind is going through this little piece of wood, which is hanging in a way which is free on the bottom, so it can just move, and it can just move on this sort of a scale that is shaped like a circle, and then you know how strong the wind is. And Leonardo da Vinci was very interested in aviation, so he developed those machines to tell him how the wind was going. This is a printing press that he made. So once again, he just understood how stuff worked mechanically. This is his attempt at a wing that obviously did not achieve human flight, but still, it's, there's understanding about the underlying ideas of creating lift, right? Which is something that airplanes do nowadays. And this, believe it or not, this is a tank. So Leonardo da Vinci developed a tank, and it has this machinery inside here that you can, basically the people in the tank would turn these machineries. Remember, there's no internal combustion engine at that time as well, so the people inside would turn levers in order to get these big wheels to turn. Look at that. Quite amazing. And I don't know, I mean, this is obviously a modern construction. I don't know if it was even built at the time, but the fact that he even drew it in his notebooks and in his codexes, as they say, as it's called, the fact that he even drew it and now you can build it and it actually works is just amazing in and of itself. Some other war machines, some shapes. This is a diving suit for humans, believe it or not. And yeah, once again, this is all made without modern materials. This is like wood connecting the I'm supposed the diver. This looks really scary, actually. I wouldn't want to see this face in the middle of the night in the dark alleyway. This kind of mask. But supposedly, yeah, supposedly this part is above water, and then you can breathe air down below. So that's again kind of amazing. And this is my silly face, of course. And yeah, and I think this is it. This is the Leonardo da Vinci Interactive Museum in Florence. So I hope you enjoyed that. Oh, I have a video. Let's see. Let's see the video. Oops. Sorry, and I'm gonna silence. Okay, I'm gonna mute this. Yeah. Oh yeah. Okay. This is like a catapult machine that he made, that he drew at least. Okay, this is not so interesting, right? You pull it, it tightens, and then you release it, and it flies off. That's not so interesting. I'm gonna see if there's a... Oh, I also made... Okay, this is the printing press. Okay, fine. Whatever. This is just an exhibit, right? This is a demonstration of how it's supposed to work. All right. Okay. We are getting close to the end here. So let's see what else I want to show you guys before we're done. Let's go real quick through the museum, and then sorry, the museum, Museo dell'Opera del Duomo, which is the big cathedral that you saw before. And I want to kind of show you, because there's some interesting things in this museum about how it was made. First of all, of course, all these amazing sculptures and doorways. This golden, these are all reliefs that are just depicting various scenes from the yeah. And it's called the Door of Paradise by Lorenzo Ghiberti, another famous architect and artist at that time. Some more sculptures, a lot more sculptures. And what I wanted to show you is, so this is the funerary mask. It was a sort of a tradition at that time in I don't know exactly if it's only in like the Western Europe. I probably so. I did see it in some other places where they made death masks of people, famous people mostly. They didn't just do it to anyone. But Filippo Brunelleschi, who was the architect of the Duomo, they made a death mask. So this is, I guess, how he looked just after his death. So, you know, looks like a guy who just died, honestly. That's as much as I can say about that. But his work, so you can see here, all these pieces, and these pieces are wooden pieces that are there are models of the cathedral before it was built. So this was an architectural structure just like any in history, and if you want to build it, you want to build models of it before. And there's some very interesting stories about the kind of discussions that he had with architects of his time, who told him that he couldn't do this kind of structure without the support that they thought he needed, and that was the common way to do it at that time. That was the way that everyone did it. But he said, I'm going to do it without this support, so it's going to be more beautiful without the support. And it's going to work, and it did work evidently, because it lasted all these centuries after. So there's some interesting story about that. And these are some tools. So this is trying to show you the construction site. of how these structures were um, made. They were constructed, and some things are recognizable. Yeah, you can kind of get the idea of how they worked. Some things aren't, and you would probably need someone with some knowledge to explain to you, for example, what this used to be, what kind of tool this was supposed to function as. But it's kind of amazing to see the ancient construction site when they didn't have a lot of the modern tools that we have today, and just kind of how they did it back then. Okay, I'm gonna skip through a lot of this, even though these are quite awesome pictures. And this is, oh yeah, this is interesting, but this is the harmony is less complicated than modern Western, especially jazz harmony, for sure. But it's still very interesting. If you are inclined to music, and you want to look at Gregorian sheet music and the sheet music system that they had, the notation system that they had, it is interesting. Sort of moving on. This is some more of the sheet music, and as you can see, it's also very ornate, right, with pictures and colors and all that. And this is, I'm guessing, this is the words that were sung in Latin, probably. Some more of that, and this is actually called the musician's Duomo. So, and of course, praise the Lord with music. The idea, all the music back at that time was religious, pretty much all of it. There wasn't so much secular music. The secular music was maybe if you were at a village and like a circus troupe happened to pass by, or some local street musicians. But there wasn't recorded music, so the music that you heard, and especially the music that, oh, here's another butt. I told you I take pictures of male butts as well. I don't know, just don't even, like, yeah, I have a weird sense of humor, I guess. What was I saying before we were distracted by a butt cheek? I don't remember. Let's move on. Okay, and another Jesus and some Pope stuff. Ornamentation. Yeah, and this is, okay, so all of these people, this is Leonardo da Vinci for sure, I'm pretty sure. I don't remember who this is, but all of these people are all these people that you can see here, and there's higher up as well, it goes all the way to the ceiling here in this room, are very famous people from that time, illustrious men, right, of that time, and some big popes. Okay, just moving on. This is the terrace upstairs, and you have some nicer views, and I especially like this picture because you can kind of see the old with the new here. You can kind of see the old Duomo, but then you can see this antenna here, and you also have an antenna here, like for internet connection, and you have this scaffolding on the side of the building, probably for some kind of restoration work. So you can see the old and you can see the new, and I like the juxtaposition, and I took this picture. Right, we are at the very last thing that we're gonna do today. So I'm gonna say before we're done that I'm really enjoyed having you and doing this stream, and please follow this channel on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, kick.com, and Twitch, and yeah, and I appreciate your support. Moving on to the very last thing, which I'm gonna, here we're gonna see some videos as well We went one day. So as I said, the place was very touristy. It was very difficult to go to a place with no tourists whatsoever. So in the last 2 days, we tried to go to places that were a little more isolated. First one of those was Piazzale Michelangelo. I'm not going to show the second one because the second one actually wasn't that interesting. Culture-wise, it was just a nice walk out to a place where it's like a part of the city that is not part of the old town and a part of the tourist section. But Piazzale Michelangelo is a little bit touristy, but much less. And we sort of went there, and it was this nice, also nice little climb up the road with these awesome views of Florence. And you can see some of the wall, the medieval wall that still exists in the city. And this is a view from the piazza and some pictures of us. And this is Michelangelo's David, but it's not the original. It is a copy. The original was there. It used to be in there in the Piazzale Michelangelo, but it was moved to the Galleria dell'Accademia, I'm sorry, which we also wanted to visit, but I have to say the line there was just so huge, we just gave it up. We tried coming super early in the morning, and the line was still so huge. We understood that we would need to wait for hours just to buy tickets. So, never mind. And here is David's butt. Third butt on the stream. And we also saw this church there. Took some pictures. And saw a cutie cat. Just lying on the staircase there. Okay. Oh, and this is funny. This picture that I took of this street sign. I don't know why it's there. I don't know what's the backstory behind it. I just thought it was funny. It looks really good as well. Look, it's really like detailed work. Oh, and there's actually something here. There's like this is now I'm seeing it for the first time. Hashtag emoticon street art. Okay, so I guess I guess that's related. So you can, if you're inclined to do so, you can go check it out. Hashtag emoticon street art. Okay, I'm just gonna show you this video from this place because it is a cool place and it's completely hidden. It's not a tourist place. It's hidden one of the streets that we passed through, and I just saw it from the corner of my eyes and I had to check it out. And it's not, I didn't even go inside because I think it was closed, but you could see from the outside, and I'll show you the video that I made in a second. But this is apparently, this belongs, it's a small museum featuring the work of Alessandro Dari, who is a jewelry maker, I'm sorry, who has done work like this, which is it's very nice. It's great work. I actually like this a lot, even though I may not wear something like that or necessarily have something like that in my home. It's also kind of, parts of it are a little bit intimidating. You're also gonna hear like the music that was played there. It was sort of like, oh, like very heavy and mysterious, but I like the I don't know, it was something about the just the whole collection of things. I'm gonna show you the video and you can see what I mean, and I'm gonna play the music this time as well. It's just, I just called it Weird Museum. This looks like the Eye of Sauron. It's a little bit creepy, I have to say, this place. Very creepy. But kind of cool. Alright, so if you want to check out more about Alessandro Dari, he actually has a pretty cool website. If you look him up online, you will find it. Alessandro Dari, Dari. He actually has a pretty cool website, and I guess he's selling his jewelry as well today. And he has some interesting story and heritage behind it, so that's cool. I was definitely, it definitely grabbed my interest, let's say, just to see this kind of a strange museum in the middle of nowhere. Okay, we're gonna finish the stream seeing this street musician, a British street musician that I met at the Piazzale Michelangelo. Um, and hold on, do we have some more? No, I think we're pretty much done with the pictures. Yeah, this is another sculpture, but we're not gonna get into it. And we're gonna finish. So I met this British dude at the Piazzale Michelangelo. He was just a street musician, just playing, and I really liked his singing. He really conveyed this sort of Beatles kind of vibe. His voice really sounded like a little bit John Lennon-esque of a sort. And I talked to him. Just a interesting story. I don't. I'm sorry, but I don't even remember his name. But he basically told me that he came to Florence. He came to Florence 3 years ago. He lost his passport and then he just stayed. So that's where he's at, and he's playing music, and it sounded really nice. So I'm gonna play you a video of that. Let's see. So he played Blackbird because I asked him. So let's play that. And I'm singing in the background with him. And look at this view. This view is just amazing. It was so nice to be there. This is me doing the whistling. I'm sorry. I'm stupid that way. I couldn't resist myself. Because the Beatles do it as well, right? In the original recording. And he also played one of his originals, that you can hear here. And this is his original, but it's very, this is channeling the Beatles, basically, as far as I'm concerned. The voice, the rhythm, the chords, the words, the lyrics, everything. Yeah. It was very nice to end the trip in Florence in a chill environment like this, hearing this music. And I'll just summarize everything as we are getting to the end of the stream. Boy, thank you so much, whoever is watching this till the end. Thank you so much for being here with me and for listening to all of this, because I know it's been a lot, but there's, this is how this week has been. I've been traveling with my family, and it's not my usual schedule. It's not the way I usually travel. I'm not like, as I said, I try to be cognizant of the whole tourist dilemma thing. So when I go to be a tourist, I don't necessarily go to all of the tourist places, or at least the not some of them. Yes, some of the most obvious ones, right? In Rome, I went to the Colosseum, for example. But even the Colosseum, I stayed on the outside of it. I didn't go inside. I didn't want to. It was just a waste of time, money, and being in a crowded place with a lot of people, which I don't necessarily like. But when I was with my family, we had a different pace. We did want to go and get to see a lot of churches and a lot of the history of the place, and we woke up early in the morning and headed out. And it's not my usual schedule, so it was a little difficult for me, but it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed being in Florence, and I really enjoyed traveling my family probably for the first time since I was very young. And the once again, there's nothing much I could say about the history of the place that hasn't been said before, right? And this is why I don't try to be the classic tourist guide and show you like all the most obvious things. I try to show you things that caught my interest and that, the place through my eyes, let's say. So yeah, so this is it, and I hope you've enjoyed this stream. And I hope that if you enjoy this stream, you keep on enjoying other streams that I do, and keep on following on Facebook and Instagram, YouTube, Twitch, Kick, TikTok. As you know, all of my links are available to you, and I would like to get some. I would love to get some comments. I would like to get some feedbacks. What you liked more, what you liked less, and just what was your experience of my telling of my experience. Um, yeah. Okay. So awesome. Thank you once again for watching this. Thank you for being here and for following my journey. I hope to see you soon. I don't think there's gonna be a stream tomorrow. I was trying to plan for something, like I told you in the video that I posted on Instagram yesterday. I was trying to plan something. I don't think it'll work for the time being, but if it changes, I will let you know and I will keep you posted. And other than that, stay tuned, and I hope to see you really, really soon. Lots of love, and thank you for your support. And with that, this is Ronnie